In the heart of Manhattan's bustling financial district, amidst the towering glass and steel monoliths that pierced the sky like colossal monuments to ambition and greed, stood the imposing headquarters of Sterling and Cross, a prestigious law and investment firm whose very name commanded respect and fear across Wall Street and beyond. The building itself seemed to embody the ruthless ethos of the corporate world, gleaming, cold, and unyielding, where millions of dollars exchanged, hands every hour, and fortunes were made or destroyed with a single signature. On a particularly humid summer morning, when the city was already throbbing with relentless energy, 16-year-old Malik Jennings approached the grand revolving doors of Sterling and Cross with a mixture of determination and quiet confidence that belied his youth. Malik was a soft-spoken black teenager from the Bronx, a neighborhood known more for its resilience in the face of hardship than for producing future business prodigies. His thrift store blazer was neatly pressed, his sneakers freshly cleaned, and though he was dressed modestly, his eyes shone with a hunger for knowledge and a sharpness that could cut through the thickest legal jargon. Malik wasn't supposed to be there, not in this realm of polished power brokers and seasoned executives. His journey to this moment had been anything but typical. He had earned his place at Sterling and Cross through a fiercely competitive summer internship program, organized by the mayor's office, designed to give underprivileged youths a glimpse into the workings of real-world business and law. Most of the interns in this program were relegated to mundane tasks, filing papers, making coffee runs, answering phones, mere cogs in the massive corporate machine. But Malik was different. From the very first interview, it was clear he was no ordinary teenager. His standardized test scores were off the charts, his essays revealed a precocious grasp of complex legal concepts, and his passion for contracts and law was palpable. Through a clerical error, or perhaps fate's own hand, Malik was placed not with the office assistants, but on the executive floor, where he would shadow the firm's top lawyers, strategists, and negotiators. The executives on that floor regarded him with mild amusement. What could this scrappy Bronx kid possibly contribute to their high-stakes world? Their polite smiles barely concealed their doubts, and most saw him as little more than a novelty to endure for a few weeks. But Malik had a secret weapon, an insatiable curiosity and a mind honed by years of relentless self-study. Since the age of 8, he had devoured legal textbooks and pored over case studies on a battered, cracked tablet that belonged to his older brother. What others saw as dull legalese, Malik saw as a thrilling puzzle to be solved. He spent nights memorizing the nuances of contract law, intellectual property, and corporate governance, dreaming of a day when he could turn his knowledge into power. So, while his fellow interns were busy navigating coffee machines and photocopiers, Malik sat quietly in boardrooms and strategy sessions, absorbing everything like a sponge. He listened to the cadence of negotiations, the subtle shifts in tone, the way lawyers wielded words like weapons or shields, and then, one day, everything changed. Sterling and Cross was on the verge of finalizing a hostile acquisition deal that would see them absorb a promising small tech firm, a black-owned startup that had begun to draw attention for its innovative software solutions. The deal was complex, fraught with risk, and ripe with opportunity. On this particular morning, Malik found himself in the conference room where the firm's senior partners and legal team were poring over the final draft of the merger contract. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. Malik's eyes flicked over the dense, jargon-filled pages with a speed and clarity that surprised even the seasoned associates who had been working on the document for weeks. His mind raced, connecting clauses and cross-references, hunting for inconsistencies or traps. Then suddenly, his gaze fixed on a particular section, a clause so cleverly disguised that most would overlook it, but to Malik's trained eye, it screamed a warning. The room was filled with the murmurs of corporate giants and the scratch of pens on paper, when Malik, with a steady voice that cut through the hum of conversation, raised his hand. In that moment, all eyes turned to him, the intern who wasn't supposed to be there, the boy from the Bronx who had just spotted a flaw that could unravel a multi-million-dollar deal. The silence that followed was deafening, a pause heavy with disbelief, skepticism, and the sudden realization that this teenager might know more than anyone in the room had anticipated. Malik knew this was his moment, not just to prove his worth, but to expose a dangerous trap hidden in the fine print, a clause designed to protect Sterling and Cross at the expense of the very people they claimed to be acquiring. As the CEO's smirk faltered, and the executives exchanged uneasy glances, Malik prepared to deliver the words that would change everything. The conference room, a high-tech fortress of glass and polished steel, suddenly fell into an unnatural silence as Malik's voice sliced through the usual din of confident corporate banter with surprising clarity and authority. "Excuse me, per this clause, section 942, this looks like a setup," he said, his tone calm but unwavering, eyes locked on the sprawling document spread before him. The room, filled with a dozen of the firm's most seasoned executives and legal experts, exchanged glances that flickered between disbelief, amusement, and thinly veiled irritation. Richard Sterling, the firm's charismatic yet ruthless CEO, turned slowly from the whiteboard, where he had been outlining the acquisition's strategic benefits, his half-smile lingering as if to mock the audacity of this young intern daring to challenge the deal they had worked so hard to finalize. "A setup," Sterling repeated, his voice dripping with condescension, daring Malik to elaborate. But Malik was unfazed. He had anticipated this exact reaction. "Yes," he said firmly, "because this clause requires the acquired company to waive all indemnity claims if any future patent disputes arise. But the language is deliberately vague, almost impossibly so. It's constructed so that if a lawsuit comes up regarding the technology, the original company's founders are retroactively blamed, effectively stripping them of any legal defense." A wave of tension rippled through the room as the legal team exchanged uneasy looks, flipping rapidly through their notes to confirm what Malik had just pointed out. The seasoned lawyers, who had previously nodded confidently while drafting the contract, now seemed less sure, their expressions darkening. Sterling's casual grin, once the hallmark of his unshakable control, began to vanish, replaced by a look of thinly masked concern. Malik's insight was not just an inconvenient truth, it was a devastating revelation. This clause had been inserted by one of the firm's senior partners, known internally for his cunning use of legal jargon, to bury toxic traps deep within contracts. The hope was that no one, not the opposing lawyers, not the clients, and certainly not a teenage intern, would ever catch it. But Malik had caught it. He pressed on, feeling the weight of all eyes on him. At face value, the clause seems to protect Sterling and Cross's intellectual property, but in reality it's a ticking time bomb. If the acquired company's tech proves successful, Sterling and Cross profits handsomely. But if it doesn't, this clause can be used to destroy the founders financially and legally, and the firm can reclaim the company's assets without contest. The impact of his words settled heavily over the room. A senior partner muttered under his breath, "Who? Let him see that document." Another voice barked, "He's just an intern, he shouldn't even be in this room." But Malik's composure never wavered. "You asked me to observe, I observed," he replied coolly, his tone polite yet imbued with quiet defiance. A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the conference room, a mix of disbelief, amusement, and rising alarm. Executives shifted uneasily in their chairs, caught between the instinct to dismiss the boy and the growing dread that he might be right. For the first time in months, the impenetrable veneer of certainty that cloaked the deal cracked. No one knew quite what to do next, and the CEO's smile was gone, replaced by a shadow of uncertainty as Malik's words echoed, exposing the vulnerability lurking beneath Sterling and Cross's polished facade. After Malik's bold declaration in the conference room, the atmosphere shifted immediately from shock to controlled chaos. The moment he finished pointing out the trap hidden in section 9.42, he was politely but firmly ushered out of the room and told to wait in the hallway, left alone with the quiet hum of distant office chatter and the muffled sounds of hushed conversations behind the glass walls. Inside, the senior leadership erupted in a flurry of urgent activity. Richard Sterling slammed his fist on the table, his usual composed demeanor cracking as frustration boiled over. "This kid just jeopardized everything. We're supposed to close this deal in 72 hours. he barked at the legal team, who scrambled to track how Malik gained access to the sensitive documents so far ahead of schedule. The legal counsel frantically searched for any signs of breach or oversight, while the Human Resources Department began quietly drafting papers to terminate Malik's internship before the situation could spiral further. Yet, unbeknownst to Sterling and the board, someone else was watching and listening with growing concern. Gabriella Chen, the firm's recently hired diversity compliance officer and a Harvard-trained corporate watchdog, known for her unwavering commitment to ethical business practices, had quietly observed the unfolding drama from the sidelines. Gabriella had been skeptical of Sterling's aggressive, borderline exploitative tactics from the moment she stepped into the firm. Over the past few weeks, she had monitored the acquisition closely, suspecting that the deal was riddled with more than just legal risks, that it might cross ethical boundaries as well. Malik's discovery confirmed her worst fears. She immediately requested an emergency private meeting with the board, insisting that Malik accompany her. In the boardroom, Gabriella addressed the stunned executives, her voice steady but commanding. "You don't yet understand the full value this young man brings to the table," she began, motioning toward Malik, who stood quietly but confidently by her side. "He hasn't just caught a minor flaw, he's exposed a massive, systemic risk that could have triggered class action lawsuits across multiple jurisdictions. This isn't just a contract problem, it's a ticking legal and ethical time bomb." Malik then took the floor, systematically walking through the intricacies of the contract clause and explaining in clear, precise language how it unfairly placed the entire legal and financial burden on the founders of the acquired company. His analysis highlighted how the clause's ambiguous wording made it vulnerable to exploitation, potentially resulting in ruinous litigation that could cost Sterling and Cross hundreds of millions and irreparably damage their reputation. As Malik spoke, the boardroom's atmosphere transformed from defensive skepticism to respectful attention. Whispered conversations broke out among the executives, acknowledging the gravity of the risk Malik had uncovered. One board member, an older woman known for her keen financial insight, leaned forward and said slowly, "Do you realize what this means? This young man just saved us from a $100 million disaster." Richard Sterling's usual ironclad composure faltered as he attempted to justify the clause as a necessary safeguard in a high-risk deal, but the tide had clearly turned. The board began questioning the firm's long-standing reliance on underhanded legal tactics cloaked in complex jargon to shield themselves from accountability. Gabriella seized the moment to remind the group that integrity and transparency were not only moral imperatives, but strategic advantages in today's increasingly scrutinized business environment. Malik's unexpected insight had done more than uncover a hidden trap. It had sparked a profound reckoning within Sterling and Cross, forcing its leadership to confront the unsustainable nature of their old ways. By the end of the meeting, what had started as a simple internship project had shifted into a powerful lesson. Brilliance, ethical clarity, and courage, even from the most unlikely voices, could outshine the most carefully polished deceptions, and that the future of business depended on recognizing and nurturing such potential. Malik was no longer just an intern. He had become a catalyst for change in a world desperate for it. Months after Malik's revelation rocked Sterling and Cross, the firm found itself engulfed in a whirlwind of internal investigations, public scrutiny, and a seismic shift in leadership that sent ripples through the entire financial and legal community. What had started as a quiet summer internship for a Bronx teenager had escalated into the unraveling of one of Wall Street's most notorious deals and the downfall of a titan whose empire was built on ruthless ambition and dubious ethics. The acquisition, which had been poised to cement Sterling and Cross's dominance in the tech sector, was abruptly scrapped as the firm's board, rattled by Malik's findings and Gabriella Chen's unwavering push for accountability, demanded a complete overhaul of the company's legal compliance protocols. Richard Sterling, once untouchable and revered as a genius strategist, was quietly asked to resign, a move that sent shockwaves through the corporate world. His departure was seen not just as the end of an era, but as a stark warning to executives everywhere about the consequences of cutting corners and hiding behind complex legalese. Gabriella Chen was swiftly promoted to interim CEO, heralded as a beacon of integrity and reform, tasked with steering the firm toward a future defined by transparency and ethical business practices. But amid all this upheaval, the spotlight remained firmly fixed on Malik Jennings, the teenager who had dared to speak truth to power and unmask the dangerous trap hidden in the fine print. Malik's life transformed overnight. Offers poured in from Ivy League universities, prestigious law schools, and even major law firms eager to recruit the prodigy who had single-handedly altered the course of a multi-billion-dollar deal. 2 Ivy League institutions extended full scholarships, accompanied by glowing personal endorsements from members of Sterling and Cross's own board, praising Malik's keen intellect, courage, and potential to become a future leader in law and business. Yet in a move that surprised everyone, Malik declined the scholarships. In a press conference that captivated national media, he announced the launch of ClassGap, a non-profit organization dedicated to empowering young people, especially those from marginalized communities, with the tools and knowledge to navigate the often confusing and predatory world of contracts and legal agreements. "I'm not here just to get ahead," Malik declared, his voice steady and resolute. "I'm here to pull others up with me and to make sure no one ever gets tricked by fine print again." ClassGap quickly gained momentum, partnering with schools across the country to provide workshops, online resources, and mentorship programs designed to demystify legal language and give youth the confidence to stand their ground in business and legal matters. Malik's story became a beacon of hope and inspiration, proving that even the smallest voice, armed with knowledge and conviction, could challenge entrenched systems and spark meaningful change. Media outlets ran headlines like "Black Teen outsmarts Fortune 500 CEO with one sentence" and "The Teen Who Dismantled a Corporate Empire," while young legal enthusiasts from diverse backgrounds saw Malik as a trailblazer, blazing a path for equity and justice in a field long dominated by the privileged. The legacy Malik forged was more than a single victory. It was a movement, a new generation of thinkers, fighters, and changemakers who refused to be silenced or underestimated. Sterling and Cross, once a symbol of unchecked power, had been forced to reckon with its past and embrace a future where ethics mattered as much as profit. And Malik? He wasn't just a boy who read a clause. He was the architect of a revolution that would resonate far beyond the glass towers of Manhattan, changing the face of corporate America and empowering countless others to read between the lines and fight for what was right.